In today's video, we will be talking about Texas Syndicate, inside the most dangerous prison gang in America. In the deepest, most dangerous corners of the American prison system, a ruthless gang controls everything. From the streets of San Antonio to the steel bars of Texas's most infamous penitentiaries. They call themselves the Texas Syndicate. To the uninitiated, they're just another criminal group. But to those who've crossed their path, they're a nightmare. They are not just a gang, they're a well-oiled machine that operates with military precision, controlling drug trade, extortion, and even the very lives of inmates and prison guards. But how did this gang, which started as a small group of inmates seeking protection in the 1980s, evolve into one of the most feared and powerful organizations behind bars? You step into a Texas prison, you step into their world, and you either adapt or you end up dead. In this exclusive documentary, we'll take you inside the world of the Texas Syndicate. From their humble beginnings in a Texas prison yard to their rise as one of the most powerful and dangerous gangs in America. This is the story that the system doesn't want you to hear. This is the untold story of the Texas Syndicate. Before we dive into today's powerful story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more gripping tales. Your support helps us keep sharing these stories, and we wouldn't want you to miss any of the action. Now, let's get started. The origins of the Texas Syndicate. The year was 1984. Texas, a state synonymous with fierce pride and even fiercer violence. The prison system was overcrowded, understaffed, and filled with dangerous criminals who lived by a code of violence and survival. Interview with a former Texas prison guard, John. Texas prisons in the 80s were hell. I mean, you had every type of convict imaginable in there. Gangs, murders, you name it. But one thing you need to understand is, it wasn't just about getting by in there. It was about power. It was in this environment of chaos and lawlessness that a group of Latino inmates saw an opportunity to take control. Initially, they weren't looking to run a criminal empire. They just wanted to survive. For many, the Texas Syndicate was born out of necessity. The prison system was dominated by rival gangs, the Mexican Mafia, the Aryan Brotherhood, and the Texas Mafia. Latino inmates found themselves caught in the middle, with few options for protection. But as tensions between rival factions grew, the Texas Syndicate was born. Interview with Michael, a former inmate and ex-member of the Texas Syndicate. We weren't looking to take over the whole system at first. It was about banding together to survive. The thing is, once you start surviving together, you start looking out for each other. And when you have a bunch of people looking out for each other, you start taking things over. The Texas Syndicate was born not in the streets, but within the walls of Texas's most dangerous penitentiaries. And soon, they would become a force no one could ignore, the rise to power. What began as a small group seeking protection quickly transformed into something far more sinister. The Texas Syndicate was no longer just about survival. It became about power, control, and profit. Interview with prison informant. Once they got a foothold, the Texas Syndicate expanded fast. They had connections inside and outside the prison. They knew how to run drugs, extort money, and intimidate anyone who crossed them. By the early 90s, the Texas Syndicate was operating across multiple Texas prisons, with their influence stretching from the prison yards to the streets of Houston, San Antonio, and beyond. They had their hands in everything, from the drug trade to extortion, and even murder. At the heart of the syndicate was a strict code of loyalty. Breaking the code was punishable by death, and betrayal was never tolerated. Anyone who stepped out of line was swiftly dealt with, usually in brutal fashion. Interview with Felix, a former gang member. The Texas Syndicate doesn't tolerate weakness. If you messed up, you were out, simple as that. And if you couldn't make money for the gang, they would find someone who could. The syndicate didn't just survive, they thrived. Their grip on the Texas prison system grew stronger with each passing year. And in the late 90s, they made a bold move, taking their operations outside the prison walls. The Texas Syndicate began to spread its reach far beyond the prison gates. They established ties with drug cartels, used the money to fund more operations, and even began infiltrating legitimate businesses, all while operating with the precision of a military unit. Interview with Richard, a former law enforcement officer. They weren't just a bunch of convicts anymore. They were a cartel. They had connections, resources, and people willing to do anything to make sure their interests were protected. The Texas Syndicate today. Fast forward to today, and the Texas Syndicate remains one of the most dangerous and influential prison gangs in America. Their presence is felt in nearly every corner of the state, from small-town jails to the most secure high-security prisons. Interview with prison expert Doc Garcera. The Texas Syndicate is unique because of its longevity and adaptability. They know how to survive in the changing landscape of the prison system, and they've evolved with the times. They're not just a prison gang, they've become a criminal empire. But the Syndicate's rise to power hasn't been without its challenges. Rival gangs have tried to take them down, law enforcement has tried to infiltrate them, and the state has implemented new programs to disrupt their operations. Yet, despite all of this, the Texas Syndicate remains a shadow in the background, pulling strings and orchestrating criminal activities with alarming precision. Interview with a current Texas inmate. They control everything in here. You don't make a move without them knowing. The Texas Syndicate runs the show. You either play by their rules, or you don't survive. And the Syndicate's reach extends beyond the prison system. It influences the streets of Texas with drug distribution networks, illegal gambling operations, and even political ties that protect their interests. The future of the Texas Syndicate. As the Texas Syndicate grows stronger, one question remains. How far will they go? With law enforcement on their tail and rival gangs closing in, the Texas Syndicate's future remains uncertain. But one thing is clear, they are not going down without a fight. The Syndicate's grip on Texas may loosen one day, but for now, they remain one of the most dangerous, elusive, and powerful prison gangs in America. The Syndicate's Code of Conduct. The Texas Syndicate operates with an ironclad code. It's not just about making money, it's about loyalty, respect, and fear. The gang's rules are strict, and anyone who breaks them is punished severely. Loyalty is the foundation on which the Syndicate was built, and betrayal is unforgivable. Interview with Javier, a former high-ranking member of the Texas Syndicate. If you're in the Texas Syndicate, your loyalty is to the gang above everything else. You don't ever turn on your brothers, you don't talk to the cops, you don't snitch, and if you do, you're dead. Simple as that. The Syndicate has a brutal system for dealing with disloyalty. When someone violates the rules, the punishment is swift and savage. Beatings, stabbings, and even murder are all part of maintaining control and instilling fear among its members. Interview with Carlos, a former gang member. One time, a guy tried to rat out one of our guys. They took him to a cell and beat him till he couldn't walk. They did it to send a message. If you break the code, you're done. The Texas Syndicate's reputation for violence and retribution is legendary. It's not just about what they do, it's about the message they send. In the world of prison gangs, power is everything, and the Syndicate makes sure its power is never questioned. The gang's hierarchy is like that of a military organization. At the top sits the shot caller, the ultimate authority, the one who makes the decisions and calls the shots. Below him are lieutenants and enforcers who handle the day-to-day operations, making sure the rules are followed, and that money continues to flow into the gang's coffers. Interview with Henry, a former law enforcement officer. These guys operate like a corporation, but their business is crime. They have different people assigned to different tasks. Drug trafficking, protection rackets, you name it. And everything is organized. The shot caller calls the shots, and everyone else follows orders. If you don't, you're out. It's that simple. The Texas Syndicate's economic empire. While the Texas Syndicate's power in the prison system is well known, their true strength lies in their economic empire. This is where the real money is made. The Syndicate controls the flow of drugs, extortion, and illegal activities that stretch far beyond the prison gates. Inside the prison walls, the Syndicate coordinates with criminals on the outside. They run a sophisticated network of drug smuggling, extortion, and even human trafficking. Their reach is so vast that even law enforcement struggles to break it down. Interview with David, a former DEA agent. The Texas Syndicate is a major player in the drug trade. They're not just about running things inside the prison anymore. They've set up trafficking routes that stretch all over Texas, from the border to the big cities, and they're using the prison system as a hub to distribute everything from meth to heroin. What's most frightening about the syndicate's operations is their ability to keep everything organized. Even though most of the members are behind bars, the gang operates like a business, with each member playing a specific role. Those on the outside act as distributors, while those inside keep the operations running smoothly by handling logistics, collecting debts, and keeping the peace. They've established an underground empire that is almost impossible to track. The money they make is funneled into the gang's pockets, feeding the beast that is the Texas Syndicate. And it's not just about drugs. The gang also runs illegal gambling operations, protection rackets, and even fraudulent businesses. Interview with Richard, a former FBI agent. The Texas Syndicate has tentacles everywhere. They're involved in illegal gambling, loan sharking, even smuggling weapons. If there's a way to make money illegally, you can bet they're involved. They know how to stay low and avoid detection. They've got insiders everywhere, and their network is vast. Rivalries and conflicts. But the Texas Syndicate's rise to power hasn't been without its challenges. Throughout the years, they've had to fend off rival gangs, some of the most dangerous and powerful criminal organizations in America. The Mexican Mafia, the Aryan Brotherhood, and even the Texas Mafia have all tried to challenge the Syndicate's dominance, but each time they were met with fierce resistance. Interview with Michael, a former gang member and ex-inmate who witnessed some of the most violent confrontations. Rival gangs don't like the Syndicate. They see us as competition, and sometimes that means blood. The Mexican Mafia tried to move in on our territory a few times. It got real ugly. But the Syndicate? We don't back down. We fight back, and we fight hard. The Syndicate has a long history of violent confrontations with rival gangs. The most infamous of these conflicts occurred in the early 90s, when a war broke out between the Texas Syndicate and the Mexican Mafia over control of the prison drug trade. The battle was brutal, with multiple stabbings, riots, and even murder. Inmates were killed, guards were attacked, the prison system was in chaos. But through it all, the Texas Syndicate remained unshaken, proving that they weren't just a gang, they were a force of nature. Interview with Javier, a former high-ranking member. When the Mexican Mafia tried to take us on, we showed them what we were made of. There were killings on both sides, but in the end, we controlled everything. That's when the respect came. The other gangs knew not to mess with the Texas Syndicate. The Syndicate's legacy and impact. Today, the Texas Syndicate's influence continues to reverberate across the state's prison system and beyond. While many have tried to dismantle the gang, it remains one of the most powerful criminal organizations in America. But with new leadership, more sophisticated tactics, and alliances with other cartels, the Syndicate is far from done. Interview with Richard, a law enforcement officer. The Texas Syndicate is not just a prison gang anymore. It's an institution, ply embedded in the fabric of the criminal underworld. As long as the prison system is what it is, the Syndicate will continue to thrive. The Texas Syndicate's reach extends far beyond the prison walls. They are a reminder of how power, survival, and loyalty can shape an empire, no matter the cost. And as long as the Texas prison system continues to breed violence, corruption, and lawlessness, the Texas Syndicate will continue to dominate, adapting to every challenge and ensuring its place as one of the most dangerous and feared criminal organizations in America. The personal cost of the Syndicate. Behind every criminal organization lies a story not just of power, but of personal sacrifice. The Texas Syndicate is no different. While its members rise to power, their actions ripple out, leaving behind shattered lives and families torn apart by violence. Interview with Lisa, the daughter of a former Texas Syndicate member who was killed in prison. I didn't grow up with my dad. He was locked up for most of my life. The only time we saw him was when we could visit him in prison. I never understood why he was there, why he chose that life. But when he was killed, I understood the cost of it. The world they live in doesn't care about you. It's a game to them. But for the families left behind, it's hell. The families of those involved in the Texas Syndicate often bear the heaviest burden. They live in constant fear, knowing that the men and women they love are bound to a gang that values loyalty over everything, even family. The brutality of the life inside the syndicate doesn't just affect the members, it destroys everything in its path. Prison visits, once meant to be a time for loved ones to reconnect, have become a constant reminder of the deep wounds the gang leaves behind. For the children, parents, and spouses of Texas Syndicate members, the price of loyalty is more than just emotional toll. It's often a life sentence of their own. Interview with John, a former law enforcement officer who worked on high-profile Texas gang investigations. When you're dealing with gangs like the Texas Syndicate, you have to understand the human cost, the violence, the corruption, the fear. It doesn't just affect the criminals, it destroys whole communities. People are living in constant terror, and they don't know who to trust. You can't escape it. Law enforcement versus the syndicate. For decades, law enforcement has waged an uphill battle against the Texas Syndicate. While the gang has thrived inside the prison system, its ties to the outside world have made it a target for local, state, and federal authorities. Interview with Jim, a former Texas Ranger who has worked on gang investigations. The Texas Syndicate isn't like your typical street gang. It's organized. It's smart. They know the system inside and out, and they've built a network that's nearly impossible to infiltrate. Trying to get intelligence on them from the inside? That's a whole other nightmare. The problem with taking down the Texas Syndicate isn't just the gang's power or resources. It's their ability to operate quietly, their code of silence, and their deep-rooted influence in nearly every aspect of life within the prison system. Interview with prison informant. Getting someone to cooperate with law enforcement is nearly impossible. If they don't kill you for snitching, the syndicate will. They have eyes everywhere. There's no place you can hide. Even if you make it out of prison, they'll still come for you. The Texas Syndicate is a machine built on fear and loyalty. Every time law enforcement makes progress, the syndicate adapts. Their operations evolve, becoming harder to track and even harder to dismantle. The gang's ability to stay one step ahead of the authorities has made them the ultimate challenge for the justice system. Undercover operations, wiretaps, and surveillance are just some of the tools law enforcement uses to try to break the syndicate's grip. But each operation is met with resistance. Every bust, every arrest, comes with a cost. The syndicate is always watching, always waiting. The rise of new leadership. In the world of the Texas Syndicate, leadership is fluid. While the original shot caller may have been the first to build the gang into a powerful force, the leadership continues to evolve. The rise of new leaders has kept the syndicate relevant and dangerous, no matter how many times law enforcement has tried to disrupt their operations. Interview with Thomas, a former prison gang member who was once close to the leadership. Every once in a while, there's a changing of the guard. Someone new steps up, takes the reins, and it's never easy. You gotta fight for that spot. It's not just about strength, it's about brains. Who can get the money flowing? Who can keep the men loyal? Who can outsmart the authorities? That's what makes a leader in the syndicate. The leadership within the Texas Syndicate is ruthless. Each leader knows that their position is fragile, that it could be taken from them at any moment. But the gang's ability to adapt has ensured its survival for decades, with each new leader learning from the failures of the past. While the syndicate has lost some of its original leaders over the years, the gang continues to thrive under new leadership. And with each passing year, the Texas Syndicate's influence seems to grow, a testament to the enduring power of the gang. The Texas Syndicate in pop culture and legend. While the Texas Syndicate's story is one of blood, violence, and power, it has also become part of the fabric of Texas criminal folklore. From movies to documentaries, books to songs, the legend of the Texas Syndicate has captivated the public, its imagination. In pop culture, the Texas Syndicate is often portrayed as a symbol of unrelenting power and loyalty. They've become the stuff of legend, with their story fueling countless rumors and myths. But behind the entertainment and the exaggerations lies a much darker truth. Interview with Matt, a pop culture expert. The Texas Syndicate has become a symbol of the anti-hero in pop culture. People are fascinated by their ruthlessness, their loyalty, and the idea of a gang that operates outside of the law. But the reality? It's much darker. It's a story of survival, brutality, and a lot of lives destroyed. As much as the Texas Syndicate has entered the world of entertainment, its real-world impact remains hauntingly real. And as long as there are stories to tell, the legacy of the Texas Syndicate will live on, both in the shadows and in the spotlight. The future of the Syndicate. The future of the Texas Syndicate is uncertain, yet their grip on Texas's prison system remains steadfast. While law enforcement continues to fight back with every tool they have, the Syndicate continues to adapt, proving that it is not just a gang, but a deeply ingrained institution. Interview with Richard, a law enforcement officer, speaking about the future of the gang. As long as prisons are overcrowded, and as long as the system is broken, the Texas Syndicate will find a way to survive. They're too well connected, too smart, and too ruthless to just fade away. For now, the Texas Syndicate remains a looming shadow over the prison system, a reminder of the dangers that lurk in the dark corners of American society. And as long as their code of silence and their brutal ways continue, the Texas Syndicate will remain a force to be reckoned with. This has been the untold story of the Texas Syndicate, a gang that has shaped the dark underworld of Texas prisons and beyond. For more in-depth documentaries and stories from the shadows of crime, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you in the next video.